In this tutorial, we're going to make a block. All right. So here I am. I'm in 3ds Max. First thing I'm going to do is just customize unit setup, system unit setup, and just make sure that 1 unit is equal to 1 centimeter. I'm going to click OK and OK. Chances are, if you've done this before, then if you're working on the same machine, it'll already be set for that. All right, so here we are, 3ds Max. I have my different viewports. If I hover over on the side, you'll see I can change and give myself more space over here, right? Which we're going to want because we're going to start utilizing more real estate over here. Tools, Scene Explorer. Let's get my Scene Explorer back. So there's my Scene Explorer. So this is probably closer to what you students see on your machines. I'm going to come here. I'm going to click to make perspective active. I'm in Create. I'm going to go to Box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this rollout called Keyboard Entry. So you just click on the word Keyboard Entry. That expands it. You'll see it says X, Y, and Z. And then underneath that, length, width, and height. So I'm going to put 50, 100, and 200 and click Create. Now notice I had perspective active. That's where I wanted it to be created. All right, I'm going to hit Z to zoom out and see it. And then just right click, and when I right click here in negative space, so not on my object anywhere else, now box is no longer active. You don't see any of its parameters. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to default shading, click on that, and come down to edged faces. So now when I click in negative space, you see that there's this little lines showing up on the sides of my object. Let's click on our box, right click on it, and then now I'm at these 2 blue context menus. I'm going to go to transform here, go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to do convert to. And I want to select convert to editable poly. That's going to move us from create mode to modify. And there's our box 01, and now it says edit poly here. So you're going to notice that your user interface is probably a little bit different from mine. That's because I currently have my modifier sets, right? And so if you just look down here, directly underneath the modifier list, there's a button that says Configure Modifier Sets. I'm going to click on that to show buttons. All right, so I'm going to keep that on because those are useful to me. Under Common Notes, there's a set of written notes that walk you through the process of setting up these buttons. All right, so let's get into it now. Here's my box. I'm going to click on the little arrow, and now I see that I have all these sub-objects. So this is the first time we're really getting into these. Sub-objects are the different components that make up an object. So really, anytime you work in 3D, the first thing you want to do is after you get an understanding of navigation and moving objects around, you want to understand how to create raw materials like a box. And then you want to know how to start adjusting and changing. So in this case, we want to get more detail in our object. So I'm going to go into Edge here. I'm going to click on this bottom edge, just the one. And now, if I come over here, there's a rollout called Selection. If that's not your first rollout, just collapse all the different rollouts until you find it. I've already gone through and collapsed mine. So there's Selection. I'm on Edge. Because I've expanded the arrow, you can see the list here. You can see I'm on Edge. There's a little edge icon next to the word edit poly. I've clicked on just the bottom one. I'm now going to click ring, and you'll notice that that grabs every parallel edge going around. So now I'm going to find my rollout called edit edges, which in my case is the next one. It may be closer to the end of your list. You can grab them by these little handles in the corner, and you can adjust their order where they show up. Right? I like to keep my selection at the top, and I like to have edit edges next. All right, so now I have my ring just in case. I'm going to click on one edge, and then under selection, click ring, because I want to have all the edges going all the way around. Because I'm going to come to edit edges, and next to the word connect is a button that says settings when you hover over it. Otherwise, it's just this little square. When I click on that, it opens up a dialog for connect edges. And I want to change this number from 1 and click on the arrow to change it to 2. And now you see what I'm doing is I'm adding edges going all the way around. And we want to make sure that when we're adding edges, we add them all the way around I'm going to click OK. I don't want to have, if I have an edge, I want to be able to double click on it and have it wrap all the way around, making a nice clean loop is what we call that. See, if I click on an edge and click loop, you see it goes all the way around. Now I'm going to click on this edge here. Once again, I'm going to click ring so it goes all the way around. I'm going to click on the settings dialog. I'm going to change it from 2 edges to 3, and now I'm going to click OK. What I've done now is after clicking OK, I click in negative space so nothing's selected. I'm just going to click in the various viewports and click on Z on my keyboard, and that's going to zoom in on the object. So now I have a box, I got more polygons. What that means is I can go into vertex mode, and here in the front I can region select. And I region select so that I get both the vertices in the front and back. And now I'm just going to right click, and under transform here I'm going to select move. I'm going to grab this handle and just kind of move that down. Region select over on the side, move that down. Grab these guys, just kind of move them in a little bit. And so now you can see that I'm kind of forming my object. You can grab more objects if you want. Right click and go into scale. And if I grab the handle in the center here, you have Y, X, and Z. If I grab the triangle in the center, it'll actually scale them all together. You can see in the other viewports how that's kind of making that kind of shrink down. Let's do this now. I'm going to come here in perspective. I'm going to click on that one polygon. I'm going to hold Control and click on the one above it. Right click and go to move under transform and just grab the y-axis and just slide that out a little bit. And then I'm going to orbit around to the back side. Click this one here, hold Control to select more than one, grab the Y and push that back. There we go. Maybe we'll just go into vertex now, and here in the left view, kind of pull these out a little bit so it doesn't do like that weird angle. Alright, that's pretty simple looking shape. Alright, now we can orbit around. Last thing we're going to do here is let's grab this edge, right click and go into scale. Just going to scale him in a little bit and then orbit around. We're going to orbit around, grab the edge, scale that in a little bit, and we're all set. Okay, last thing we want to do is let's get rid of some of these like hard angles we have. So I'm going to click on the little plus sign and say maximize viewport, and now I'm going to double click on this edge, and you see how it grabs that entire loop. The loop stops here though because it hit an intersection of 3 points and it doesn't know what to do. I'm going to come over here and up at the very top just click to select object, so as I select on multiple things I'm not accidentally moving them around. I'm going to hold the Control key, double click here to grab that entire loop. Same at the top on the right side and then the left. I'm going to orbit around. I'm going to get this edge going down as well as this edge here. And then I just want to grab, if I was to look kind of more 3/4 kind of looking kind of towards the back here, I'm going to grab this top corner and this top corner as well. So now I've kind of defined all these edges except the bottom. And what I'm going to do is come over to Edit Edges, Chamfer. I'm going to click on the dialog settings next to that. You see what that does is that it kind of separates those. So if I drag that out, you can see what it's doing is it's separating that geometry by this value that I'm entering. And it's leaving another edge in between it. And so you can click and drag, you could get it to overlap. What's happening is the polygons are turning inside and out. So don't do that. Just make it a little bit subtle. Just make sure that none of your sides overlap as you're doing it. And then you'll click OK. So now we have this nice looking, kind of standing stone. I'm now going to go into element here, click on it, and I want to find a polygon rollout called polygon smoothing groups. With that selected, I'm going to click auto smooth. And now when I click, you see how the shading is different. If I turn this off and we just orbit around, you see how it has this very hard edge here. The way to fix that with any 3D object is just select all the polygons, and in polygon smoothing group, click Auto Smooth, and then that will go through and smooth out your object for you. The last step is just to name it block. Then you'll take a screenshot and turn this in.